because we are talking about, I'm recording now. Because we were talking about bards. I wanted to flex a little bit just for the heck of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is cringy, I apologize, but it has been a minute since I've done this. Greetings, adventurers who have come near and far. Welcome to my D&D talk show bazaar. Here we ask questions you all recommend, with guest stars, accomplice, or very close friend. Batya the paladin shall show you the light. If you do not accept, you'll face the wrath of her smite. Damien, ex-cultist, a protector of life. Unless you're a god, then you'll meet his world knife. Now for tonight's question, it really isn't that hard. We shall discuss the matter of what is a bard. I have not rhymed in so long, so we are just gonna roll with it.
I couldn't do it. There's no way.
I'll send you my notes. What is up, adventurers? Rick Quasar here, and welcome to DnDnD, Dungeons and Dragons and Discussions. I feel like I haven't done this in forever. I feel like I say that every single video, but we are here. Like I said, joining us tonight is our friends Damien and Batya. I'm just gonna call you that just because why the heck not?
Sure.
And as the rhyme explained, we have discussion about bards tonight, but not bards as a whole, something very specific about bards. So the main question for you two tonight, and I'm gonna kick you off right now, the main question is, where does a bard's magic come from? Go.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'm just going to preface this with saying that I've never played a bard, and I have zero intention of ever playing a bard ever, because I just won't.
Sad.
I think that they're a lot closer to wizards than most people think.
Okay.
Wait, what do you mean by that? As someone who doesn't use magic, what the fuck do you mean by that? Sorry, I don't mean to curse. What do you mean by
You're
that?
fine.
Bards are... How do I put this? They're like the kids in chemistry that won't read the textbook but are really good in the lab.
Nah, fair.
Like when it comes to like taking like labs and stuff, they're there every time. They can titrate perfectly every time, but they won't do their homework ever for the class, and the only reason they pass is because of lab.
Okay. Batya, what do you think?
I'm gonna give the insert company name that starts with a D's answer.
Go ahead.
From within.
Oh my goodness. So to be honest, before I started prepping for this, I did agree with Batya because I don't know where I read this. I mean, I have the Bard thing open up in front of me. They're very what does it say? A bard weaves magic through words and music. So to me, like, just that description in general, if you're not reading to anything else, to me that's a sorceresque, I was born with this magic that I can tap into type of deal. So that's kind of what I originally thought. But there is a little bit more to it. But before I go into this, I wanted to like ask you guys. Okay, actually, I'm gonna do it this way. What if I told you two that I think bards are actually a combination of wizards and paladins / clerics? All right. So I'll lead you with I'll start with that, and I'm gonna read you something, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. So this is from the 5e source book, the player's handbook. Okay. Summing up the first bit of it, it says that words and music are not just vibrations of air, but vocalizations with power all on their own. So, and it says about the bard as master of song, speech, and magic they contain. But bards say that the multiverse was spoken into existence, that the words of the gods gave it shape, and the echoes of these primordial words of creation still resound throughout the cosmos. And bards, their music and singing and speech is an attempt to snatch and harness these echoes subtly woven into the spells and powers. They are basically drawing power from words of the gods.
So I see where you're going with this in terms of the cleric stuff. I will counter that since we are technically using in this instance, we are using the lore that was created by Wizards of the Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, the origin of arcane magic comes from gods. And bards use arcane magic. So bards are as closely linked, again, to... What's it? It's not celestial magic. What's it called? What's the type of magic that there's arcane, there's primordial, and then there's the one other thing. The God's people magic. whatever it's called. I keep on wanting to say celestial, but I know it's not.
Pact magic.
No. Whatever God's people use.
Divine
magic, yes, thank you.
Okay.
But like they are as closely linked to divine magic as a wizard is, in the sense that the magic that they use originated from divine magic, in my opinion.
Okay. Batya, do you have any thoughts on what I just told you?
I feel like a bard is to a paladin, like a paladin is to a warlock.
And we had this, and you and I had this discussion. We had this discussion.
Why I'm bringing this up.
Okay.
Doing a massive throwback there. But, I mean, if that's like what we're going based off of, then technically, sure, their magic comes from the gods to some point. But then all magic really comes from the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a paladin is no different than a warlock in that sense.
Okay.
Which, makes a bard no different than all of them.
Cool. So I guess this is, I didn't research into this a whole lot. So where is the line? Where is the line of magic comes from the gods and then magic comes from what I've learned and taught myself?
I
think I have an answer. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I think the line comes from whether or not you're directly tapping into a god. So, like, with a paladin or a cleric, you can argue that they're directly tapping in and are getting their powers expressly from a connection with a god. With a warlock, it's a connection with some type of other being that is larger than them or darker or whatever than them.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to, like, wizards, I don't know sorcerers that well, and bards, or even rogue tricksters, I think it's more like they're tapping into the magic that's already in the world, that's already floating around. And so they're not necessarily getting it from a god themselves, but just tapping into the stuff that's already available.
Okay.
And therefore, it's like a learned, innate kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay, cool. That's actually a really great answer.
Oh, thank you.
That's... You're welcome. So
you say that as if you're surprised.
I am no, that is not. Kill me. So that's so oh man, you just completely made me lose my train of thought. So the next part of the like description of the bard, that why I think that they're a combination. First part is they're taking some essence of gods, and the next part is describing the bard. It says that, you know, there are bards. You walk into a tavern, you're gonna meet a bard, but there's a difference between the bards who just pick up an instrument and learn how to play instrument, and the bards that learn how to tap into the words the words of creation. So this is why I was saying that bards are like wizards, because yes, they have to learn how to tap into those words. So this, when I originally presented this question to Damien, excuse me, I'm just trying to stay in there, presented it to Damien, is he was like, well, they're like wizards because they have to go to college. Yes and no. Yes, they have to go to college, but they're going to college to learn how to tap into a magic. They're not reading, they're not necessarily like learning spells from books and whatnot. They're learning how to tap into something specific, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like going to a fine arts school.
Oh my gosh, don't forget.
I was about to say, I'm imagining them like, you know, okay, class, today we're gonna learn XYZ poem by our favorite authors, and then later today you're gonna be testing on how well you can convert that into a song that has magical properties.
I love that. I would wonder what a bard college would actually be like.
It'd be Juilliard.
Yeah, it would be.
It's like Juilliard versus MIT.
Oh, okay. So with bards, they're tapping into directly magic. And Damien, I feel like this is something more you might be able to answer, because you're currently playing a wizard. But like, what are wizards directly tapping into when they like cast spells?
So my understanding is basically like, and again, it varies from world to world, but if we want to generically talk about it, right, there's the weave that exists in the world, which is basically the source of magic that arcane practitioners usually like they draw from and get their abilities by learning how to be able to reach into that in a particular way. You know, and most wizards, right, have some kind of formulaic way that they have learned or designed for themselves for how to be able to tap into it. So, you know, you could say that they're like, I don't know, some kind of astrophysicist type thing, right? You read a book, you figure out how to do it, and you go from there, and then you become a professor or something. I don't know. And then bards are basically like meth heads who go and figure out how to do chemistry on their own, and probably don't know the super scientific parts of stuff, but at the end of the day, they still do it.
Okay. So
this is why I won't play a bard. I just degrade them constantly.
Just play a weird wizard bard hybrid and call it a day, or even a warlock bard or something.
No.
Man, this is like a big, loaded, broad question, but I want to ask it to you too, to lead into the next question. But what is magic in the D&D world?
Are you asking me if it's quantifiable or if it's abstract? Because I feel like that's where this is leading.
Quantifiable. Abstract as in something that is extremely obscure in the world, like it's just a thing, or if it's quantifiable in the sense that like you could measure it if you wanted to. Because I'd argue that it's measurable.
Hence the reason you have spell slots.
Neither, actually.
See, I would argue differently, Damien.
Go ahead. Why do you think so, Batya?
Because I feel like the spell slots are more so your ability to control it than the actual thing itself.
But in order for you to control something, you have to know how much to draw on.
Yeah, but that's more of applying a learned skill and muscle memory aspect of it than an actual, like, unless I very much well could be confused on what you mean by abstract, but I'm viewing it as like the magic itself in the world is abstract, not really quantifiable. So since that it's just always there, and then you're just learning how your body, like how yourself responds to it and how much you can take and handle.
I would say that I understand where you're going with this. Yeah. I would say that in a confined space, it is measurable, but there is too much of it that exists in general to be able to quantify how much exists.
Yes, I think.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of like I like what Batya is going for, because like I kind of feel like if I'm about to cast a spell, it's like I'm going to like hold my breath, right? And maybe if I like I can hold my breath for like X amount of minutes, whatever. And that's something that I can improve by maybe doing like some breathing exercises or whatnot. But I'm basically controlling that. I'm basically controlling improving that ability and improving and controlling like an action within myself. But it all depends on like where I am. Obviously, I'm not going to take a deep breath underwater because then I'd be dead.
Sure.
But
only one way to find out.
Yeah, I know.
True.
I mean, there's that freaking. I looked at. I don't know why I was looking.
Once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah. There is liquid.
Literally.
There is liquid that you can breathe. Have you heard of this before?
No.
Yes. Yeah, I have heard about this.
Batya, there is liquid that is like, because it's what is it? Not hydrogen. That's not right.
Oxygen.
Is it just liquid that's so loaded with oxygen that you can literally breathe it?
I think so, but like, you'd also have to like purposefully try to like, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend trying it.
I feel like
you still get the liquid in your lungs? So like, yeah, you can breathe off of the oxygen, but like your lungs would still fill with liquid.
Right. That's what boggles my mind, because like I feel like it's still like you're trying to inhale like Jello or something, because that's but it's still going into you, and it's still like a semi-solid thing. Like I can't imagine it must feel good.
I bet it feels terrible.
I bet it feels awful. But they do
this. I want to try it.
So they do this.
You do it first. You let me know how that goes.
Gladly.
So they do this to help divers prevent basically getting crushed when they do deep diving into like, to prevent getting affected by pressure from underwater.
I believe that.
Yeah, so they use like to like basically fill a scuba suit full of this liquid that they can breathe somehow. And obviously I'm not fact checking any of this at the moment, because I read this because what was I thinking? Oh, I was thinking about Star Wars. The little chambers that they go into that's filled with water. Yeah.
Bacta tanks.
Bacta tanks, yeah. And I was like, could that be a thing? And I looked it up and I was like, oh, they're kind of close to it. Anyways, that's a rabbit hole.
It's like, sure, yeah.
Okay, so I like both of your answers about magic, but but it doesn't answer what I was looking for in terms of what is magic, because what separates the weave from like divine magic? Or is it basically the same thing?
Okay, I'm gonna keep answering really scientific related questions because I feel like there's no other way to approach this.
That's fine.
If viewers can't tell, my favorite class is wizard. Always has been, always will be. My answer would kind of be like, it would be like trying to say that you are made out of sunlight. Technically, all the energy that you receive and that you are made up of comes from the sun because the sun feeds into plants, which feeds the animals, which feeds your body. It would be like trying to say that you are made out of sunlight, even though that is not true, but the source is sunlight. So the source is divine magic. But the weave has become so far removed from necessarily a divine being that it is its own separate thing, even though it is energy or magic.
Okay.
To put it in layman's terms, for anyone who isn't into science, like me, whose favorite character is a rogue.
Sure.
Woo! Divine magic is gifted to you. You're getting it from something. Like pack magic, you're getting it from something. While arcane magic is just there. It's innate. So it's not being gifted to you, so it can't be taken away. Like with pack magic if you lose it, or with divine magic if you stop following your god. There was a time being where Batya lost her magic technically. Or very much so could have been played that way if we had a meaner DM.
True.
We love you, Josh. We love you, Josh. Don't screw us in the next campaign.
Because she lost the connection with the person who gave it to her. And so I think that's the difference between like divine magic and the weave.
Okay.
For layman's terms.
There's also primordial magic, but
that is. I don't know what that is.
It's magic that comes from like the different elemental planes.
Oh.
That's
okay.
Technically where I think DnD is moving towards, where like druids draw on primal magic as opposed to, they used to be, I think, technically divine magic casters, technically, which never made any sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, that's helpful. So we got these three main forms of magic, unless there's another one that I'm forgetting.
No, I don't think so.
We got these three forms of magic. We got what basically everyone regularly uses, the weave. Then we got primordial, which there's like a monk that can tap into primordial because they got like there's like an avatar monk, right? They
the bad monk class, that one.
The bad monk class.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you got divine. So from what you guys have told me, from what I'm understanding, is basically all magic at some point came from the gods.
I don't know about primal magic because I don't know if technically the gods created the elemental planes.
All right, Ben, I'm about to blow your mind. Ready? You play Legend of Zelda, right?
Yes.
Okay. Wind Waker. Not Wind Waker. Back it up. Ocarina of Time.
Which storyline are we talking about? There's like
Ocarina of Time. Okay. Ocarina of Time.
Sure.
When they were explaining of the three different goddesses.
Uh-huh.
The three different goddesses, one did like the earth, one did life, and then the blue one did something else, which I cannot remember.
She wasn't like the other goddesses.
She wasn't like the other goddesses. That was the wisdom goddess. Man, we're gonna have to look this up. But and there's a point. I promise.
No, sorry. All I can think of right now is I'm not like other goddesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not like other goals. Sorry.
She's a material goddess. Okay, hold on, because it's imperative to make sure. So, if the gods created the world and spoke things into existence, wouldn't they have also spoken the elements into existence as well?
It depends on whether or not you think that the material plane is a plane that only the gods made or not. Because, like, for example, I think in Matt Mercer's world, technically the material plane was created by whatever primal entities existed there, and then the gods came and put people on it.
Okay.
And shaped the elements. But the elements existed prior to. So I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll say for the most part then that for the weave, at least, at some point the magic came from the gods. And it just became its own thing. Yeah? Ish?
Yeah, sure.
So, in that case... Batya, watch this. I'm about to make Damien really mad. In that case, all the magic users that connect to the weave are weak. Because the clerics and the paladins are getting their magic directly from the source. And all the arcane peeps are just using the byproduct.
No. This is the meat eater diet versus vegan diet debate, and we are not having this in terms of magic. I am not having this argument.
Look, Batya, she worships Edis, and Edis gives her power, Mister.
Yeah, and a crystal in her forehead was enough to sever that connection.
Look, that's probably why.
Oh wow, so powerful! Shiny objects make me go burr.
Look, man, I'm gonna back up Damien on this one. If you have the ability to lose it from a severed connection, then I think your powers are weaker than those who can just tap into something. Because technically speaking, the people who can tap into something can always gain more by tapping in more, while the people who are just receiving it via connection, they can only receive what the other person is willing to give. And so there's always going to be more of a bottleneck, a throttle to what they can receive.
So there's sugar daddy magic, there's survivalist magic, and then there's old people magic.
Old people magic.
I think
like
sugar daddy magic is the weakest magic.
Which one's sugar daddy?
Divine.
Clerics and warlocks.
And paladins.
And paladins.
I'm fully willing to admit that Batya was a sugar baby. Like 100%.
But you smited. Okay, so
you technically had two.
So technically two. I couldn't fit warlock / paladin describing Damien in my rhyme. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But so bringing it all back, the reason why I brought up like saying that the weave is like at one point came from the gods and like divine magic and the weave magic is that, well, wizards are tapping into the weave by knowledge and learning.
Mm-hmm.
Bards are only tapping into a very specific part of it, which is the words of creation, which in general, sure, could be powerful, but they're only tapping into a tiny piece of the weave. If the words of creation did implement themselves into the weave.
I have a comment I would like to make. Because I don't know what the words of creation are. And so
neither do I.
Based off of that alone.
It's the first that I've heard of it, to be honest.
Technically speaking, right, a bard could be someone that doesn't actually speak. They could be mute. And so they could be playing music only. Mm-hmm. And so then are we saying that the words of creation are the tones, the pitches of the music, or the pitches of the words? Or are we saying something different?
I think it is the unique way that they engage with like these, the vocal components of magic, and then also with because their approach is a lot more like emotion, like evoking and like based. And I think, like, I don't think that a bard that didn't, like a sociopathic bard, I don't think that works because they don't have emotions. Like I don't think they would be able to tap into magic. Like I think it is a combination of those things.
I think I would disagree.
Really?
Because I don't think they have to feel the emotion. I think they just have to inflict the emotion. Right?
I suppose that's fair.
So like
Yeah.
they themselves wouldn't need to feel what they're saying as long as they can make the other person feel it or what they're like listening to. Cuz like so like bards, like if we're taking this back out of context of D&D and going back in history, bards are storytellers. That's where the term bard comes from way back in the day. And they were professionals at their craft, professionals at making people learn a lesson or feel something.
Sure, the things that they had to learn, like in school, sure.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But mostly it came more towards, the history of their patron. So telling the stories of, if you were my patron, of your family, of your feats, of whatever emotion that brings towards me, or I believe that should be brought towards others. And so if we're then applying that to D&D, realistically, that's the same thing except with magic. So a bard could, hypothetically speaking, make someone cry without ever actually feeling the sadness themselves if they're just really good at what they do.
I suppose. Yeah. No, I definitely would consider that a possibility.
I think
rare, but a possibility.
They would always, and they should always, if you're going to play someone who is a psychopathic bard, a pure sociopath, you should always have to roll with disadvantage because you're not feeling it yourself and you are trying to convince people of an emotion you do not have. But I still think it would be a very interesting character to play, but 100% with disadvantage.
Fair enough. All right. Cool. Well, we are running out of time here. So I mean, I guess we kind of did answer the question of like where a bard's magic comes from. They tap into like something specific, but it is generally, I guess, could exist in the weave. But final thoughts? Any comments or questions?
I will change where I think bards bring their magic from or get their magic from, because I originally said from within. I think it's definitely from the weave, from the external plane, but it's, as Damien had put it, based off of emotions. And I think it's based off of the pitches that causes emotions, so that you don't necessarily need words, but you just need to be able to inflict some type of emotion. They're the ultimate emos of the world.
Oh my gosh. They just walk in and then play the two tones.
More than warlocks?
Oh, 100%.
Oh.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a warlock is like the, I don't want to say the bad kind of emo, but like like the self, like the self-harming, the I'm super duper edgy, while the bard, well, no, I guess the goths, while like the normal bards are just the I'm emotionally damaged and I have emotional problems, I have daddy issue emos.
Sure.
Oh my gosh.
I feel warlocks have pretty bad dad issues, I feel like.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
That's why they find somebody else to be their dad. That's the whole sugar daddy magic thing.
Or mom.
That is
let's
fair.
be honest.
I mean, sure.
Or sugar parent.
I don't know.
We leave it at
or
that.
sugar parents. Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
That sounds. I don't like. No, I don't like that one. No.
That sounds so wholesome.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you two for having this discussion with me. Definitely very interesting. I love it. I never really dove into magic, like exactly what the magic is within like a typical D&D world. And of course, all you dungeon masters out there that might be watching this, that of course is up to your own interpretation. Maybe you don't gain magic from the weave or even the gods or something, but generally, if you're reading any of the source books, it would generally talk about the weave and divine magic and primordial magic. Yes? Question mark?
I think that's becoming. I think it's unofficial, but it seems like the direction they're moving in.
It might become official, so just to throw that on your radar. But anyways, thank you, Batya and Damien, for joining me for this discussion tonight, and thank you everyone else for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed the rabbit holes and the little glimpses of whatever magic is. But make sure you guys go on and check out the rest of the archives and be back here for whatever I have planned next. Until then, have a good night.